Leave grey behind. Leave your old self behind. Leave ordinary behind. South Africa is different. The you who leave South Africa won't be the same as the you who arrived. You'll find that there's nothing ordinary about this place, because you don't just visit South Africa, you will meet South Africa. You will meet the wide open beaches of the Wild Coast, and the chief whose ancestors have lived in the hills above the Guanyana River for 1,000 years. You'll meet a taxi driver and a shebeen queen who you will never forget. You'll meet the golden light of the Timbavati as it covers everything in a soft amber glow that reminds you of how things once were and could be again. You'll meet a lady called Dani Anna in Boerkap who will write her recipe for pickled fish on the back of the menu. You will meet a 70-year-old surfer who will tell you about the time he sat on his board listening to a whale whose breathing sounded like the heartbeat of the ocean itself. You will go on a walk at night through the bush that you will never forget, because it was the night you felt you saw the stars for the very first time. You'll have supper under an acacia tree as the sun goes down, and giraffes gather by the watering hole. And years later, you'll find that the call of the hippo still seems to echo through your heart. South Africa and the things you experience here will change the way you see the world and the way you live your life. Because when you open your arms to embrace this country, you'll find that the you who leave South Africa won't be the same you who arrived. Because when you meet South Africa, you'll find that none of it, not one little bit, is ordinary.
Container gardening is becoming more and more popular as people appreciate the flexibility and extra growing space it provides. It's not just about flowers either. You can grow your own tasty produce right outside your door, and many specially adapted plant varieties are now available. But growing in containers does come with its own special challenges, and if you want to succeed, it's important to plan ahead. Let us take you through the essentials.
Where to site your containers is the first thing you need to consider. Most vegetable plants like lots of sun, so it's important to choose a place which will provide 6 hours or more of direct light. South or west facing locations are the best. Placing them as close to your house as you can will mean you have easy access to your plants, great for harvesting and easy for you to take care of them. Choose a sheltered spot for your pots so your plants are kept out of cold, drying winds. Walls, fences and hedges are good locations, or try and screen the pots. Using your window ledges and balconies is a great way to get started if you don't have a garden, but make sure your pots are properly secured to prevent them from blowing off when the weather gets windy. Watering is the #1 priority for containers, as the plants won't have access to moisture below ground. On a hot sunny day they can dry out within hours and plants might not recover from serious wilting. On hot days, giving plants a thorough watering in the early morning and evening will be required, making sure that you don't just wet the surface but allow it to soak down to the roots. For added convenience, drip irrigation can be installed, particularly useful if you'll be away from home during part of the summer. Containers come in all shapes, sizes, colours and materials. Plastic and wood are tried and tested materials, but you can unleash your creativity. Just make sure they are clean and won't leach harmful chemicals. Large pots can also be used to grow plants that aren't native to your area. For example, they can be filled with an ericaceous soil for blueberries, which like acidic conditions. And for heat-loving plants such as dwarf citrus trees, containers enable the plants to be moved to a warm conservatory or greenhouse during winter months, protecting them from the worst of the winter weather. There are plenty of options available for using vertical space too, and if you have a warm sunny wall which absorbs heat during the day, this will radiate the warmth during the night, protecting the plants from cold snaps. It's essential to provide good drainage. Plants are easily killed if their roots are waterlogged. Make sure there are adequate drainage holes and that they're free from dirt or blockages. Adding a shallow layer of stones or broken pottery to the base of the pot often helps to improve drainage. The aim is to cover the drainage holes so the soil doesn't leak out, while still providing gaps for excess water to drain through. Fill the container with a purchased potting soil or your own homemade compost. Don't use soil from your garden, as this is likely to be heavy and to contain weeds and soil-borne pests. Using a lightweight and moisture-retentive mix is the best for containers, and it will need topping up each season to replenish nutrients which have been used up. Which container is best to use will depend on what sort of crops you are growing, so let's take a look at some of the best veggies to grow in containers. It doesn't get any easier than growing salad leaves. They only need a shallow container a few inches deep. If summers are hot in your location, choose an area that gets morning sunshine and afternoon shade to avoid the plants bolting or running to seed before they're ready for harvest. Cut and come again type salad leaves often come in packets with several different varieties, providing an exciting mix of leaves, and they'll only take weeks to grow. Tomatoes can be grown in several different types of containers, but they'll need plenty of soil to supply the nutrients they need right up to harvest. Many varieties, such as Tumbling Tom, can be grown in hanging baskets and look great as they trail towards the floor. Other varieties can be grown in grow bags or soil bags, or you can use large pots at least 10 inches in diameter. Make sure you use a stake and tie the plants to it to keep them upright. Tomatoes are very thirsty, so will need lots of water, at least twice a day in hot weather. Potatoes can be grown in large pots or bags and sacks designed specifically for the job. The seed potatoes are layered with potting mix and left in a sunny spot, watering as required. As they grow, you can layer more soil around the stem of the shoots, gradually building it up over a few weeks until the top of the container is reached. Many other vegetables, herbs and edible flowers can be grown in pots.
Gardening in containers is an easy way of growing your own, and you can expand with more containers to fill the space you have. Whether you have one simple pot for herbs or a mini farm full of plants, it's easy to get hooked on the taste of growing your own fresh produce and the convenience of having it right outside your back door.
You know, even if you don't have enough room to put in a contemporary garden or a standard raised bed in your yard, most people do have the space to do a potted garden. Here's where I put a lot of salad vegetables and a lot of things that we eat on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I've got the mint down here. We use that in mint sauce all the time. I've got some beets up in through here. We've got lots of flowers. This is a chocolate mint. Really, really different. Very, very interesting. You know, and even in small pots, you can grow spinach. You can eat the spinach as soon as it starts coming up. You just take a leaf off of every other plant. I put in lettuce in different spots and beets, and even strawberries in some of the pots do really well. If you've got a deep pot, fill it full of carrot seeds. It's amazing how many carrots you can get out of just a small pot like this. Last year I was pulling 10, 12-inch carrots out of some of these deep pots. I built this one specifically for carrots. Actually, some of them are going to seed right now. This is an interesting little box. They call that an earth box. And I threw in a bunch of different types of plants in there just to see what happens. And it's growing kind of out of control. It's doing quite well, actually. But it doesn't really matter if you overplant some of these pots because you can thin them as you go. lettuce. You always eat lettuce. I overplanted it. For sure I overplanted it, but at any given point in time I can go ahead and I can pick out some of the leaves, and it grows back almost as fast as you pick it. And on a daily basis you can go through your garden, even when it's really small, and pick enough of the baby lettuce to make a salad for two, and it's almost going to replace itself every single day. Now I'm trying some other stuff down low here. I'm actually trying some snow peas at the wrong time of year. I don't expect them to take, but I thought it'd be kind of fun. Now they get much, much larger when you plant them in the garden than the space that I have here, but I want to see what's happening. And we've got radishes. Did you know that radish leaves, the leaves on radishes when they're young, are as good as any lettuce? I found them absolutely fascinating to try different leaves from lettuce. The beets weren't too bad. Got more spinach in here. And you can always pop in onions just about everywhere. They don't take up much real estate, so give it a try. If you don't have room for a conventional garden, put it up on your deck.
Growing from seed indoors is useful because it gives your plants a head start even if the weather outside isn't warm, resulting in earlier and longer harvests than would otherwise be possible. It's particularly good for tender crops such as tomatoes, peppers and squash. For best results, follow these top tips. Use a good seed starting soil. It needs to be fine and moisture retentive so that the young seedlings don't dry out. Seeds are usually planted at a depth of 1 to 2 times the size of their longest edge, and they need the soil above them to be gently firmed down. Then, water them with a fine rosed watering can or spray. The soil needs to be fully moistened, but not waterlogged, so that they also have air and don't rot. Seeds need warmth to germinate, so use a maximum minimum thermometer to find somewhere in your house at the temperature indicated on the seed packet. However, warm soil does tend to dry out quickly, so to prevent this, you can either cover them with a plastic bag or regularly check and water them. The seed packet will usually tell you how many days it takes for them to germinate, but you need to check daily because as soon as they emerge, you will need to transfer them to somewhere with good, strong, natural light. A very common mistake is to place the seeds on a windowsill, which often doesn't give the same strength of light as growing outdoors. This produces leggy seedlings, and once they've started off badly, they will find it hard to recover. Most houses are already warm enough for seeds to grow, so if you're going to buy a propagator, it's better to choose full spectrum grow lights to supplement light, not heat, especially during late winter and early spring. There's no point starting seeds too early, only to find that they've outgrown their pots before the weather has warmed up enough outside. And starting seeds too late can mean they don't have time to properly develop. Is the season unusually warm or cold this year? Are your first seedlings going to be eaten by pests like slugs or birds? That's why it's a good idea to sow seeds in small batches a few weeks apart. After a few weeks, the seedlings will have developed their second set of leaves, called their true leaves because these are the ones that look like the final plant. At this stage, and before their roots get entangled, it's good to transfer the best ones into their own pots. To do this, first prepare the new pot, making a suitable sized hole. Then use something like a teaspoon to gently ease out the young plant's roots. Always pick up the seedling by one of the leaves, not by the stem, because squeezing the stem at this early stage can damage the fine capillary tubes which carry water. Microscopic hairs on the roots are how the seedling draws up water and nutrients, so aim for the minimum of disturbance, taking as much soil as possible with the seedling. Then gently firm around it in the new pot to remove air pockets. It may seem obvious, but many gardeners forget to label each pot and then have trouble identifying it when planting outside. Note down the variety you are growing and dates such as when the seed was sown and transplanted so that you can learn which ones perform. Seedlings grown indoors are vulnerable to a lack of moisture, nutrients or warmth. Just like an intensive care unit, you need to make sure that you supply everything they need, so check on them at least once a day. Push your thumb into the soil or pick up the pot to feel how much water it contains. Check that they have enough light and warmth. Going from intensive care straight into cold outdoor conditions is a shock few seedlings can survive. As the plants get larger, gradually introduce them to outside conditions, a process known as hardening them off. Take them outside for just 1 hour a day at first, then increase this each day over a period of a week or more until they are finally ready to be planted. A greenhouse or cold frame is an excellent halfway house if the soil isn't quite ready for them. By following these tips, you'll give your seedlings the very best chance of survival and set yourself up for a great harvest.
This is actually a 24 brick rocket stove. And there's the 20 brick rocket stove. Okay, and here's the 16 brick rocket stove. This is the one you see most commonly. So I'm going to go ahead and fire it up here. I got a little pile of twigs and branches right there. I'm getting the fire started in there. Looking good. Got a good raging fire in there now. Couple eggs in there. Just like that, you're cooking. Fire gets funneled straight up under the pan so there's no loss of heat. Like a regular fire, you'd lose all the heat to the sides and you'd have to use a lot more wood to do something like this. Man, you couldn't ask for better. Okay, that was the 16 brick stove cooking the eggs. Now I'm going to cook some pork chops on a 20 brick stove. Looking good. Those are already half done. Look at that. That's the 20 brick rocket stove again. I'm going to now move up to the 24 brick rocket stove. You can use rocks or sticks or anything to hold the pan up in the air. There's the 24 brick stove. Whoa, nice. There's enough room to drop stuff in from the top as well. And this is the 24 brick stove, so there's plenty of room for bigger pieces to fall in there. The flame stays right in the middle, amazingly efficient. Keeps almost all the heat in there, rises it up to the bottom of the pan. Water's boiling like crazy, tons of coals in there now. You could probably cook a few other things in the cast iron frying pan without even restocking the wood now. And that's all I used. Cooking with twigs and bark and everything else. Beautiful. You can heat up almost anything in that. So there's the base of the stove. Just 4 full-size bricks and 1 half brick to make a square. Lay the second level on top of the first level exactly the same. Half brick, full brick. Brick on either side. I really like this 24 brick one. Maybe 24 is the way to go. You can put bigger pieces of wood in there. You really have to break the wood really small if you only use the 16 brick stove. If you do have a piece of wood, say about that size, you could put it right down the center once you get a lot of coals in there. You could cook for like an hour on a piece of wood like that. Maybe 2, I don't know. It just burns slowly. So I'm going to say go with the 24 brick stove. Maybe even 28, you know. Just keep adding 4 bricks at a time, see how it goes.
Tell her we've gone too far. Tell her we've gone too far.
There are always new things to try in the garden in the quest for more harvest with less effort, and anything which saves a little time, increases the chances of success, or saves money is worth considering. Here are our top 10 gardening hacks.
Turn a long-handled tool into a measuring stick. Lay the tool on the ground and place a tape measure next to it. Using a permanent marker, write measurement marks onto the handle. When you need to space plants a certain distance apart, you'll already have a measuring device in your hand. Rejuvenate old plastic labels by rubbing with sandpaper. Permanent marker will be rubbed away quite easily and you'll get several years of use out of them. Or make your own labels. Used, clean yogurt pots can be cut into strips to make several labels from one pot. Old broken roof tiles make attractive markers by labelling with white paint. Or, for a more natural look, smooth flat stones of various sizes can be written on with paint or permanent marker and can be placed unobtrusively at the base of your plants and reused each year.
If you're all out of cloches and there's an unexpected frost forecast, use a terracotta pot instead.
Turn them upside down and pop one over your precious seedlings. It'll act as a warm jacket against a light frost. Don't forget to remove it in the morning so your plant can get the light it needs to grow. If you garden organically, the chances are that come aphid season you'll have them infest your plants. Many gardeners tackle this by squishing them with their fingers. It's a messy job. You could try blasting them off with jets of water, but this is time consuming and uses lots of water. Instead, try using sticky tape. Wrap a wide strip of tape around your hand sticky side out and pat the leaves of the plants infested with aphids. Concentrate on the undersides of leaves because that's where they like to hide. If you live in a hot area or have a particularly sunny spot in your garden, you might find that thirsty plants like cucumbers and tomatoes dry out quickly without irrigation, reducing the crop or quality. Make water reservoirs out of plastic water bottles to keep your plants healthy. Drill a few small holes into the cap to allow water to percolate out. Cut the bottom off the bottle. Sink the upturned bottle into the pot or ground before planting, leaving about an inch poking above the layer of the soil. Keep the bottle filled and the plant roots will absorb the water as it's required. Reduce your water bill by reusing water from your kitchen. Save the water from boiled veggies and once it's cooled, use it to water your garden or your pots. If you use a plant-based dishwashing detergent, this water too can be used on your garden. Don't use it if you've washed pots with lots of dairy or meat, as you don't want these products in your soil. Some seeds, like peas and sweet peas, have a hard coating. Once planted out, it takes a while for this coating to break down and for germination to begin. Get a head start by soaking the seed you'll use in lukewarm water overnight, then plant out as usual. Some vegetables like beans and peas don't like to have their roots disturbed, so conventional wisdom is to plant them in situ and not to plant out. This has some problems, as seeds can rot in cool soil and damaged plants will result in gaps. Bypass this by making your own pea and bean planters from cardboard tubes. Take a tube and make 3 cuts about 1/3 of the way along the tube to make flaps. Push the flaps into the centre and press to keep in place. Fill with potting soil and sow seeds as usual. Store the tubes in a tray to prevent the flaps from failing. When ready for planting out, plant the seedling and tube as one. The cardboard will rot and the roots of your seedlings will find their way out. If you have a small garden, go vertical. There are many varieties of vegetables which will climb or trail. You can also make vertical planters for walls or fences. Start with guttering and cut to length. Drill small holes along the length to allow water to drain out. Install the recommended brackets and clip the guttering in place. Add a moisture retentive growing medium and plant with strawberries or salads, plants which don't mind the shallow soil. Keep it watered or install drip irrigation.
What's your top gardening hack? Share it with us by leaving a comment in the box below and subscribe to our channel for more great gardening videos.